All right, let's settle down and kick this thing off. You were listening to the great Ronnie Laws, who was accompanied on the drums by the late, great Bubba Bryant, who we are dedicating this show to today. We have on the line a history maker who met Bubba Bryant in Eastern Illinois University, and it's going to take a minute to give his brother a proper introduction. His name is Kurt Farquhar. He's a television and film composer, 7-time BMI award winner, including 4 for the King of Queens. Let me get my glasses, because, you know, I ain't as good sighted as I once was. Yeah. Kurt has scored more primetime TV series than any African American. He's a native of Chicago, Illinois. He attended the Berklee College of Music in Boston, the National Conservatory of Music in Versailles, France, and Eastern Illinois University. Among the notable people that he played drums for was the late, great Freddie Hubbard. He's founder and CEO of True Music, a prominent music licensing catalog operating out of Pasadena, California. Without any further ado, Kurt, welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, where real men don't play.
Yeah.
Hey, well, thank you for having me on board.
It was an absolute necessity. One of the things I want to do is have you, well, first of all, I've got 2 brothers in the studio who knew Bubba intimately. To my left is Slim Jr. out of Paducah, Kentucky, originally. Is that right?
Capital City.
Frankfort, Kentucky. And to my right, they call him Mr. Entertainment out of Birmingham, Alabama, the one and only D. Bradley.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, they go.
Doing?
Bless.
Yeah, they go way back with Bubba, man, in this city, man, and we are all a part of a very special family of brothers, you know. And what I'd like to know first and foremost, man, is where did you first encounter William Bubba Bryant?
Well, back at Eastern Illinois University, actually before I got there, bassist named Angus Thomas used to be a bass player with Miles Davis. Had gone to school with me in Chicago, and being a very arrogant person as I was at the time, he said, "Hey Kurt, I found somebody that can kick your butt on the drums." And I said, "Yeah, where you at?" Yeah. And eventually Bubba ended, and also we were. I got to meet Johnny Lane at a jazz music program at Eastern Illinois one summer while I was still in high school. And he told me about Bubba. He said, "Oh yeah, he's amazing, boy. It's amazing the things he can do with his hands. It's just wow, you know." And so a few year or 2 later, when I got there after coming back from Europe, I decided to go to Eastern Illinois, and lo and behold, Bubba was going there. He had switched from Tennessee State,
right?
And an old friend of ours asked, "What was it like? Were you all friends at first sight then?" And said, "No, what it was like is we were both scared because everything that they were telling me about him, they were telling him about me."
I got it. Yeah.
But we did become very good friends because we both had a lot in common with just caring so much about music and drums. We're both really, really good drummers, and I think he changed the game a lot. He's he really, really was a breathtaking drummer to watch. He had a ferocious groove, you know, and could do things with his hands that were just incredible. That just would make you just shake your head. Would definitely send me back to the woodshed for a little bit. Got practice on that.
You know, on completion of Eastern Illinois, but first of all, I think it would be appropriate for the listening audience to know how you came to California originally.
Well, you know, literally in the hallway at Eastern one day, I said, "You know, Bubba, I'm getting out of here. I'm tired of school. I'm just going to go turn pro." You know, he said, "You know, man, I was thinking the same thing." So we decided to move on out together. We were originally thinking about moving to New York, but we were a little scared about going directly to New York, and so we actually went to Boston because I had gone to Berkeley College there. I said, well, that'll be a good first step. It was the stupidest thing in the world, but we did it, and we got there with a few pennies in our pocket, and couldn't find a place to stay. And I was on the phone with my brother in L.A., and he said, well, my wife and I are moving to New York to do a play, so you can have our place until we get back. So we just took our last few dimes and got on a plane and came to L.A. And I think Bubba had $120, and I had about $62. And we literally got here, and people asked, "How did you get started? How did it all happen?" You know, it just seemed so magical. I said, we would read the back of record covers and see what record was there, was recorded in L.A., and then we would call down to the music union, to Local 47, and they'd actually give you somebody's telephone number. And we'd just come up, hey, my name, he'd go up there and say, hey, my name is Bubba Bryant, and I'm just got to town, and I'm great. You want to play? You want to hear me? And I would do the same thing, and we just kept going on and on, 50 out of 100 people would hang up on you, but hey, that left another 50 that sat down and talked with you, and we actually got some gigs that way, just scratching at the pavement, trying to do it. You know?
So you mentioned your brother, Ralph Farquhar.
Yeah.
In his own right, he's a history maker, but we're going to focus mostly on the interface between you and Bubba. But just for posterity, share with this audience who your brother is.
Well, Ralph was a writer on a TV show called Happy Days, and he was one of the writer-producers on Married with Children. He created Moesha. He co-created The Parkers and Sinbad, South Central. Currently does the Real Husbands of Hollywood with Kevin Hart. So he's done quite a few things. Created a movie called Crush Groove years ago. So Ralph is a big reason why we had this career in television, because neither Bubba nor myself were thinking about doing any TV. I mean, at the time, I didn't even watch TV. Neither did Bubba. And when my brother suggested that I try and do it, that was a big turning point. And I started kind of taking off in the television world, after having done a great deal of touring and playing with live musicians, and I kind of took to the whole television composer thing, and it started taking off. And I started saying, "Boy, I need some help here. I need somebody I can trust and I can believe in." And that was Bubba. I asked him. I said, "You don't have to go out on the road anymore. Why don't you come on in here and you can work with me?" And he said yes. And we came together, and we started doing shows like South Central and Sinbad and Moesha and Sister. A lot of people don't know he worked on all of those shows with me.
In the House, yeah.
Yeah, he worked on all of those shows. In the House, like I said, Sinbad.
Ned and Stacy. The Corner, which was a pilot for HBO. And, that leads me to the next question. What is it about Eastern Illinois that afforded you and Bubba such a foundation to venture into what it was at the time for you guys virgin territory in the television and composition industry?
Well, it was an interesting time at Eastern Illinois University there in the mid-'70s. A lot of great musicians there. Angus Thomas, Bubba Bryant, Jeff Pilton, a lot of really wonderful musicians. And people challenge each other. There's everybody from as a musician, as I was as challenged by the pianists as I was from the drummers. I mean, there's a incredible pianist. Look at me. I'm just so. Glenna Murphy was like one of the most breathtaking pianists you ever wanted to see, friend of hers, Linda Wilkins. These guys were amazing, so that was very challenging to be around an environment where everybody was so good. And most of all, our teacher, Professor Johnny Lane, he had really incredibly high standards, and he really pushed us to be competitive. He'd walk in the room, he'd say, "Who's the best, you or Bubba?" And if you lied, he'd say, "Oh, Bubba was great. He did this, oh my God, he'd deck you for that." And but if you said too much about yourself that wasn't true, he'd deck you for that too. You gotta get balanced, because he figured that if you could look at yourself honestly, you could grow yourself. Which I've kind of lived by that. Try to look at exactly where I'm at, see where I'm lacking, and try to add on from there.
So in many ways, you guys were pioneers in the film and television industry. What was it about the chemistry between you and Bubba that became so magical in that way?
Well, we were friends, We were just really good friends. He would tell me when I was going off reservation and being a little bit stupid, and you'd have to tell me that quite a bit. So you always have to have somebody that you can talk to that will tell you straight, And again, being around somebody else who's just so talented musically that pushes you. You know what I mean? So I never felt comfortable when I was around Bubba, because he's just a lot of people don't know, he was every bit as strong of a songwriter and music writer as he was as a player. Every bit. A lot of people never really grasped that he was that strong at that. He was just an amazing composer of any type of music he wanted to do, jazz or hip hop and R&B. As a matter of fact, we had a band for a while. He and I and Doc Holliday. We had a band called Mild Obsession, and we were just doing it, trying to do everything we could, to make something happen in those days. This was before the whole television breakout thing, but he could write a pop song or an R&B song. And again, another thing that most people don't know, he had an amazing voice. This boy could sing his butt off. He could sing his tail off. He had a really, really beautiful, soulful voice, which not a lot of people knew because he didn't talk very much.
For sure. I told you, I thought he was a mute when I met him.
In high school, in college, they used to have Angus Thomas had a nickname for him called Drooper, and he just walked around with that stick bag drooping from his arm,
Oh.
And not saying anything, looking like a damn Peanuts character. He was the first black Peanuts.
Oh my God! You mentioned the third wheel, the legendary Doc Holliday, who attended Tennessee State with Bubba out of Memphis, Tennessee originally. And tell us a little bit about the impact you guys had on the industry once, you got out here and began some forms of collaboration.
Well, we did a lot of things together, but we did a lot of things on our own.
Mm-hmm.
Each guy was very, very strong. Doc had a real knack for vocal coaching and helping singers go and realize their best of their capabilities. So he did everybody from the Backstreet Boys to Britney Spears to
NSYNC,
Paul Abdul to whoever. So people would always call him in to take a great singer even to a greater level. And Bubba with his thing of just playing with just all kinds of amazing artists. I mean, if you think of the range from playing with George Benson to Ronnie Laws to Joe Sample to the Backstreet Boys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how far could that be? I mean, and at the same time he could go and heat it up on a hip hop set too.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he still sounded like he still played like he was a 20-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
and that's amazing. The guy was still practicing hours and hours and hours a day. I was just talking with him a year ago, and he was saying how much he was just practicing. He said, I'm not waiting for these boys to catch up on me.
That is so true, man.
Yeah,
I remember when he was with the Temptations, and they were over in Vegas, and all the other band members were, just kind of laying around in the green room, and he'd break out that pad, man. He kept that pad with him everywhere he went, man, and he would just start, working on his turnovers and whatever it is that y'all call that. And that was his obsession, really, was music, man. I never knew him to do anything else, man, but music.
I would say he had a connection with another musician, Angus Thomas, that went to school with us. Angus was a great, great bass player. As I told you, he played with Miles Davis, and he's just a stunning player. And boy, the connection that those two guys had was something else. It was just nothing short of magical. I've known Angus since I was 12, 13 years old. But when he got with Bubba, they just had this. Musicians have a thing where certain guys lock. You know what I mean? And these guys, you had two just amazing guys that were just belligerently talented, and when they played together, it was just like complete and utter fire. It was like they were just one person. It was just a stunning thing, and just to see. And that's what. And Angus was a person that pushed heavy, and Bubba pushed back, and he was quiet, but he was definitely he was aggressive in his own way too. And,
it's funny that you mentioned Angus, because I met Angus. They were roommates for a while, but Angus was touring so much with Miles, I never did really get to know him that well. But I do remember knowing him from a distance. And what is it about the percussion that is so essential to the magic of music?
It's the groove. It's the heartbeat. You go all the way back to the American Bandstand. The number one response to everything, it had a beat and I could dance to it. I mean, that's what people think. Hey, man, if you tapping your foot, it's already good. Now you can put some melody on that, and some chords, and that's a whole other thing. But people are defined. Every music is defined by the feel that it has, by the rhythmic propulsion that it has. Every music, whether it's something blues happening early in the part of the 20th century to jazz, to bebop, to rock and roll, all of them had their feel. To funk, you see Parliament Funkadelics, and it's the groove. You see hip hop today, and it's the groove. Even if the hip hoppers sample something, they do enough changing to it to make it their own, and it's about their feel, whatever that feel is at that time. And Bubba seemed to be able to connect to every feel of every era. He was really a consummate musician, drummer, and he always wanted to make that distinction. I'm not just a drummer, I'm a musician, man. And really, you could hear the song. You could turn off everything else, and you could hear the changes to all of the songs in his drumming.
So, what are some of the other memories that you have of this very, very special relationship that you had with Bubba?
Well, one day he was a very spiritual person. He carried two things around with him most of his life. His stick bag, and inside that stick bag was generally a Bible. So, and a lot of people didn't realize that about him, because again, he would be very, very quiet and very private, and also that he's just a funny and fun person, and he would just call me up just to say one word, and, hey, Kurt, remember, and just say something stupid, and we'd both just start cracking up for 10 minutes, and I tell you, I'm going to miss that forever, that my friend would just call me and say a single word, and it just put us both on the ground.
Well,
that was going to be tough to
I was doing pretty good till you got choked up, because I remember when we was kids, man, and my cousin was actually I played trumpet for 4 years and realized that I just didn't have the discipline, and they kept catching me missing notes, and I had to get on about it. My cousin played. His name was Tyree Glanton. They moved to Nashville in 1966 after my uncle Tyree Glanton passed away, and they moved into the same neighborhood with Bubba, and. It was several really great musicians. Brothers by the name of John Green, who played with Billy Preston. You probably met John.
Yeah. I met John.
Yeah, and these cats, man, came together in the basements of their parents' home, and they put a band together called The Syndicate. And they were so good that by the time they was 15, man, they was playing adult clubs, and they got took advantage of. One night, this promoter paid them in chickens, and Bubba said if we wasn't so hungry, we'd had a problem, man. And so I watched them, put that work in, man, with because Nashville has a rich musical history as well. You being from Chicago, which is the advancement of the blues, all the musicians that came out of Mississippi and Alabama and Tennessee that migrated to Chicago. But Nashville has some incredible, local bands, and these cats didn't take a back seat to nobody, even when they was in high school. And the thing that always amazed me about Bubba was once he got behind them drums, he turned into another cat.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute. That was before they talked about being bipolar and that kind of thing, And I'm like, that's another dude behind them drums, because as soon as he got away from those drums, he would, he was very reclusive. And you had to get to know Bubba a certain kind of way to appreciate that that's just who he was. But as far as the music is concerned, I'll share this story with you. When he was with the Temptations, he had just got the gig through this brother named Master, who knew Ron Tyson, and the Temptations drummer, Otis's group, had passed away. And they gave Bubba the gig, and me and brother here, Slim, we were in Vegas watching the show, and Otis was just, I could see it on his face, man, how it took him back to the heyday of Motown, which was so percussive. And Bubba was driving so hard, man. They had a singer, a little heavyweight guy, He had that boy sweating like a runaway slave, man, Because they didn't want to work that hard, because Bubba would push a band to death, man.
Yes, sir.
He definitely.
And go ahead.
That snare here sounded like a firecracker going off, and it was like, make you jump, boy.
Oh man! And the brother to my right, D. Bradley, like I said, he's out of Birmingham, Alabama, and an accomplished drummer, and he grew up in 16th Avenue Baptist Church in Birmingham, so you know where he's coming from, right? Mm-hmm. And I introduced him to Bubba about 15 years ago, and he had told me who he was, and then I saw him rip some joints up, and I said, man, I got somebody that can take that thing you got going to another place. So kind of tell him a little bit about your experience playing with
that snare, man, that drive,
Yeah.
But Bubba was an ologist, man, like the brother Kurt was saying. He played any style of music, and he played it. He played it with a passion, with a whole nother percussion dictation, man. Like he said, you could tell what the song was. He knew the song. He didn't just play drums, man. He knew the music. He knew. You could tell it was something supposed to happen right here in a turnaround. You knew it was a turnaround. Something's coming. He had all the significance, man, that you didn't have. I never had. Like a lot of drummers, you have to be James Brown with. One thing, break it down, to ride it to the. You didn't have to do that with Bubba Bryant. You didn't have to do that, man. He knew if it needed to be a ride there, if it needed to be calm down there,
I learned a lot of that from him because he was a monster on that. He played that song. He played the changes of the song like.
Oops! What happened?
All is well.
Did we lose?
We lost everything.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah. The sound?
Testing 1 2 testing.
Lost everything.
Testing.
When he sit down, you lost it.
Testing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we had a brief technical difficulty, but I'm just so grateful, man, that we're having a fireside chat with people who had different levels of relationship with Bubba. Slim was with him all the way up to the time that he moved back to Nashville a couple of months ago. And just some thoughts on your relationship with Bubba, Slim.
My relationship with Bubba was like
You look closer.
that he was kin. How's that? And one of the things that I noticed about him was something that I was informed on. Bobby told me one night, he said, "Man, you're getting ready to see a guy do something that you don't usually see." And when I did see it, it was like either Bobby is psychic, because this boy is a bad man.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like he was a part of it. One time I was in, what's his place? Not Laguna. It might have been
Newport Beach.
Newport Beach.
Yeah.
He was playing at a festival. And I noticed that everybody was looking at me because I was with Bubba. And they thought I was a celebrity because he was so tough. I'm talking about this cat would do like this. They would start playing and they couldn't figure out what to play. And all of a sudden, it was a solo for Bubba. And Bubba was placed on stage with his back to a tree, sitting on a stool, and when they couldn't figure out nothing else to do, Bubba was playing the tree. I'm telling you, man, that was impressive.
Yeah.
Really, really impressive to me. And I knew then and there, this cat is Bubba Bryant all by himself.
Yeah.
He's a bad man.
That was one of the things I took the greatest pride in, Kurt, being just as confident as you are arrogant. I would love to go places and say, look
Wow.
here. Wow. No, that's what he said there. I'm just repeating what he said. You from Chicago.
Any
man.
opportunity. It's the truth. Yeah.
No, I'm gonna hit him in the throat, man. I mean, he's family now, whether he want me to be or not, man. Because I would hear about him so much. It was Kurt this, Kurt that, Kurt this, Kurt that. You know. So I hope you didn't take offense to me repeating what you said about yourself.
Any opportunity. Yeah. It's opportunity.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
But as we wrap up this segment right here, Kirk, this is going to be more than just today. You know, people say that all the time when people pass away. But one of the things I take pride in is telling stories. And Bubba Bryant name will ring out as long as I got a computer and a pencil and a piece of paper, because it's really important for our people to know about the Kirk Farquhar and the models of possibility, because too many of our children don't know that they can have a great life, which you have had by finishing what you started in school, becoming an all-around cat, and then seizing an opportunity, and more importantly, bringing somebody with you. You know, because you said that earlier, man, that when you got to that space, you know, you called out to Bubba, because I remember Bubba was playing with various groups, and there would be gaps in between gigs and stuff, and he would never tell you this stuff, but I knew that he wanted to come off that road, you know, and then to be in a situation where his best friend could make that happen in a lucrative way is something that our people need to know, man, that we actually have relationships that make a difference in the quality of people's lives, man. So as we wrap up,
Bubba's an honorary Chicago boy, man. You know, I know he's from down there. But we claim him up in Chicago too. He went to too many Chicago jams, but we don't leave ours behind.
Hey, I love that about Chi-Town, man. And one of the things I want you to know is I've got a meeting Friday with a brother at AEG by the name of Kevin McDowell. Bubba was the music director for Jim Brown's 75th birthday party that we did at Club Nokia. And they call it something else now. I don't know what it is. But I'm meeting with him on Friday, and I don't have a timeline yet. But I want to bring as many people together that had wonderful musical experiences with Bubba, and produce something reflective of the impact that he had on music and other people, man. And I'll be getting back to you as I come out of that meeting and share some thoughts with you, and then you can give me some feedback in terms of how we can do something, man, that leave a lasting mark in terms of what Bubba meant to the music industry.
Oh, that would be great. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, man. We're going to take a short pause, man, and I really do appreciate you sharing some very important stories about the legendary William Bubba Bryant.
One of the greatest drummers to ever walk the world.
That's for sure.
That's true.
Right.
That is so true.
All right, greatest musician.
All right,
thanks for having me on here, and I really appreciate it.
All right. I'll be in touch, Kurt. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Okay, we'll be right back in a couple of minutes. Give Me the Night, George Benson. Bubba played with Benson for 5 years. I remember after he left Nashville and came to California, I lost touch with him for several years. And I was living in San Diego at the time. This was like 1984. And they had a beautiful venue in San Diego called Humphreys by the Bay. And I had went out to see Ronnie Laws, and I had dinner prior to the show, and they were doing sound check. And I heard so much drumming going on that it drew my attention, so I went over by the stage, right? I said, I need to see who that is. And that's the impact Bubba had on my life, man. You know, growing up around him, I knew who could drum. And I said, whoever that is back there, know what they doing, right? So I go to the stage, and I looked, and I said, that's Bubba Bryant. But he was going by William Bryant. And I hollered, hey, Bubba! And he knew there was some country stuff right there, right? And he came after they finished the sound check, and we hugged. We hadn't seen each other in 7, 8 years. And then, man, Ronnie turned him loose doing the show, and I just swelled up with pride, man, knowing that, man, that's my people, man. And we exchanged numbers, and then shortly after that, maybe a year later, I was at a George Benson concert in L.A., and they got to the part where they did Broadway, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, my God, that's Bubba Bryant, man, you know. And he spent 5 years with George Benson, and if you want to do something in terms of the listening audience to get a feel for how incredible he was, just Google George Benson, Montreux, Switzerland. And Bubba couldn't have been no more than about 27, 28, man. And George had tore him up, and then he stepped back with that confidence you have when you know you got killers in the band, right?
Right.
And he turned Bubba loose, and George looked like a proud papa, man. He just folded his hand, caught his guitar, and said, go ahead, son. And Bubba got to twirling them sticks, man.
Yes, sir. He's a showman.
Oh, my God, man. And again, you know, every time I turn around, he was with somebody else, and he was with Bobby Womack twice in the 80s. Yeah. And then Slim and I went to the last performance that Bobby Womack did here in Los Angeles at the Saban Theater in Beverly Hills. And we was at sound check, right? And Bobby was sick at the time already. And he came in and he told Bubba, he said, look, Bubba, we're gonna pick up if you think you're lonely now tonight, man, pick it up for me. And Bubba picked it up, and it moved Bobby to the point where he got, if you think you're lonely now, wait until I leave your ass. I said, oh, my God. He loved Bubba, man. He loved Bubba to death. And you can see that chemistry between them, man, because Bobby was an incredible musician himself. As they say,
been a lead singer, been a front man.
Yeah, game, no game. Yeah. We have someone on the phone who is featured in my book, Real Men Don't Play. And the chapter about this brother in the book is the man with the horn. He now resides in some little town, I can't even think of the name of it, in Texas. He's originally from Brooklyn, Illinois, which is outside of St. Louis. He's been a friend for 30 years. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome to Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, Pretty Ricky Perkins. Hey, Rick, how you doing?
He wrong.
Say what? Now, as soon as she put that picture up, you know why they called him Pretty Ricky.
He pretty wrong for that.
This brother right here is one of the just most amazing trumpet players, because I remember we used to kid each other because we worked together at Recycling Black Dollar. He looks like Billy D. Williams, but he played like Clifford Brown, you know. And Rick used to tell me, he said, man, I try to sing and play pretty notes on the trumpet, you know. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. So welcome, Rick, to the show.
Hey, well, thank you very much, and also hello to your guests.
Yeah, I got Slim Jr. in here and D. Bradley.
Hey,
How you
Slim,
doing?
how you doing? Hey, D, how you doing?
Hey, bless, Rick, bless, man. Good to see you.
Good, same here.
So, if you would share with us your musical experiences and social experiences with the late great William Bubba Bryant.
Well, thanks to you, I was introduced to him, and at the point that we were introduced, and he came to a set and played, we had very little knowledge of him. And it was a short gig, so his true skills and abilities didn't come forth. But shortly thereafter, we played for the Los Angeles Black Expo, and Bubba had fallen off his bicycle and hurt his ankle. And we got a tremendous set here because they got other featured artists. And that evening, he had the entire band captivated. When we weren't playing, we all stared at him because he was on one foot and check out them drums and igniting flames and combustion on the bandstand. It rose. Everybody took their talents to another level, and we all thought we were pretty good. But you know, when you get somebody who is super good, then that moves you along as well. So we've always enjoyed playing with him, and he was a wonderful human being. Always the same speed with that mood and personality, and nothing different. It was always the same Bubba, gracious, and playing his butt off.
What was probably outside of that performance the most memorable musical experience you had with Bubba?
Well, he actually kind of mentored my son-in-law, who was a percussionist, and he had congas and bongas and all those things. And we were playing at the Merck Park at their annual 4th of July Jazz and Blues concert. And the son-in-law, who came from nowhere, I didn't pay him for 8 months, and then he got so good I had to start paying him a little bit of money. But we were playing the gig, and so then the son-in-law brought a African drum in addition to his normal tools. And he was excellent. The crowd went crazy. And when that happened, he inspired Bubba to the point I'm going to have to show young bucks some stuff. So he played the floor, the mic stand, his drums, the boy's drums, played back to his drum, and then it was a fantastic set. I can feel all of that energy from that gig right now as we speak. And that was probably 6 or 7 years ago.
If not longer, yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, as a trumpet player and the band leader, I ain't going to tell them what your other nickname is, but it rhymes with Rick. And how demanding you could be. What level of comfort did you have when Bubba was back there behind the drums as a musician?
Well, total comfort, because, you know, that something happens with that group of guys who still play with me since 2002. And that family thing, that brotherhood thing, all of that comes together when we see each other. That before we ever touch instruments, there's love and hugging and hey, glad to see you and all that. And then when we get on the bandstand, all of that transcends to the music as well. And we were a unit, whether we rehearsed or not. We were a cohesive unit. Everybody supporting each other. It was like a high-five thing on the bandstand. When one guy got through showing his skills and talents, everybody cheered him on. Well, they cheered on the next guy. And Bubba kept all that in pace, in that you need a moderator. And just like when you hear Blakey, if you don't play, that foot on that drum is going to stomp you in your behind if you don't get out there and play. So he sort of like pushed us to be all that we could be, and that was the beautiful thing about it all. And at the end of a gig, it was nothing but handshakes, hugs, and love, and it's still that way today. We'll just have to rest upon our memories of Bubba when we get together from now on.
Now, did he do any tracks with you on the music that you're working on now?
No, he didn't. We had plans to do this because we talked about that in May, and he didn't divulge exactly how ill he was. What he did was made himself available for whatever I needed to do. And we had hoped that when I came to Los Angeles next time that we'll be able to get to do some tracks then, but that didn't happen, and now we won't get a chance to do it all. But I got plenty memories in my heart and in my mind.
Yeah.
So you've also performed some shows with my brother D. Bradley in here. D. Recall some of the sets y'all came together and just ripped places to shreds, man.
Well, with Bubba, man, Bubba is this. It's actually the definition of never miss a beat. Never missed a beat, man. He, and as Rick said, I met Bubba through you, you know, which I appreciate, and I think he's played with me ever since then, you know. Any opportunity that we had, you know, and he was available, he was there, you know. It's very few gigs that we had rehearsals, that we got a chance to do a rehearsal, you know, and doing cover stuff, and beyond my original composition. He already knew that anyway because he was there when it formulated, you know, and he did some studio things as well. And we just recently did some studio stuff on a blues artist, Miss Peggy Scott Adams. He's on the drums. Oh, really? On her last, on her new hit called Love by Myself. Oh, it was something that I produced on her. But Bubba, you know, Bubba, man, that's my cat. Bubba hit drums harder than anybody ever seen in my life. Yeah. Drums ought to be sold. Drums be sold. The snare, I know the snare sold. Snare be sold, Bubba could too, you know. Oh, and he used to always, you know, commend me on my drumming and stuff. Man, I used to tell him, man, look, you sure is nice. I love you too. Right? But I know if Bubba's in the house, I ain't got a stick. You know? If I had some sticks, he's gonna have them anyway. But
I started the show off, Rick, with a cut on Ronnie Lawes' new album entitled Solo called Settle Down. And there was a rehearsal the day before they debuted the album in the form of a CD release party at the Catalina Bar and Grill. And we were all at rehearsal, and Ronnie hadn't got there yet. And there was Craig T. Cooper, who was the music director all these many years for Ronnie, the incredible bassist Larry Antonino, Bubba, and I'm thinking, what's that young brother name came out of Leimert Park on the keyboard? Richard something? Robert Turner. Robert Turner. Oh my God, man! And so they had already rehearsed this song before Settle Down, right? And so they started playing that song and took it to a place it hadn't been before. And Ronnie walked into the studio, right? And he had his case in his hand, and he folded his arms across his chest, and he was mesmerized at his own music. And then he said, I was standing right next to him, he said, man, we didn't do that like that in the studio, you know. And he said, let me hurry up and get in here before y'all take my song over, man. And that was the wonderful thing about music. And great musicians, when they get together, something magical happens.
That's
you know
what music is.
Yeah, that's man. And that's what I'm gonna miss the most is that magic that was created anytime he sat behind a drum set with other comparable musicians. Rick,
yes.
What else is going on with you now that you have moved? What's that town in Texas you living in now?
Killeen, Texas.
Killeen. Okay. Yeah. So what's on the horizons for you musically?
Well, you know, I've always worn 4 or 5 hats, but I'm the closest now. I'm the closest I've ever been to where I would be a full-time musician, but I still have some other things I love, like the newspaper that I publish and so forth. But I've done 2 original tunes in the can, and we've got 4 more that we're going to do. I'm recording in Round Rock, Texas is where the studio is. And I suspect that in another 2 or 3 months we will be through with those 6 cuts, and then we'll package them and then dispense them to the world.
Well, in my chapter on Rick in my book Real Men Don't Play, just some history and background. Rick was a single parent, 2 daughters, when he moved to California from St. Louis. It's been how many years? 30-something years ago now, Rick?
Yes.
And he was, you know, a single parent, taking care of his daughters and working full time. And we worked together at an organization called Recycling Black Dollars here in Inglewood, California. And Rick would tell me about the history of Brooklyn, Illinois, and how it was a epicenter of just incredible music. And I'd heard about, Miles Davis and other people who came out of Clark Terry and some other people, Ike Turner and whatnot, who came out of St. Louis. But I really didn't have any idea how rich the musical history was. And he would recount to me having played in these great orchestras, and he had a great high school band experience. And I got tired of hearing him talk about, how he used to play and that kind of stuff. And I said, man, you sound like a punch-drunk fighter, man, who used to be a contender. And so every time he would start talking about playing, I'd be like, man, I'm sick of you telling me about what you used to do. Because he hadn't played for 20 years, over 20 years.
I remember.
And I had went out of town, and I came back in the office one day, and I thought it was, the radio, because the people in the office like jazz and stuff. And I said, damn, that sounds like Clifford Brown on the stereo. And Jackie B said, no, that ain't no stereo, the secretary in the office. And I went back in his office, right? And he had enough embouchure to still be, playing.
Yeah.
He was about to run out of gas, though. Okay. Because he hadn't played in 20 years.
That's what he thought already.
No, it's the truth. He know it. But what he did was he made such a mark in terms of the quality of his tone, man. I'm like, man, you are being blessed and rewarded for taking care of your daughters all these years, man. And it's phenomenal that you can play like that. Because I played the trumpet long enough to put it down. All right. Because that's a brutal. Now, you can fool people on saxophone, clarinet, and all of that. You can fumble through some stuff, right? Yeah. You miss a note on a trumpet, man, then people going to start throwing stuff at you. Man. You know what I mean? It's just a horrible sound when you miss a note on the trumpet, right? And so I told Rick, I said, Rick, you back, man. And I went on the computer and I created this flyer that said, the return of Pretty Ricky Perkins, and I put it all over the office, all the flows and stuff, man. And
embarrassment.
And next thing I know, the light came on, and he started the Rick Perkins Quintet. And at some point, I said, "Man, look, you got a great unit. Let's take it up a notch." And he looked at me like, "Now, Bobby, you just done went in over your head here now, man. I got a tight unit." And I said, "Man, nah, you ain't heard Bubba Bryant play, And he invited Bubba to a set, as he said earlier. And I'm telling you, man, it created some amazing musical experiences, man, because I was the master of ceremonies at many times. And I tell people, look here, y'all, I don't know what y'all came in here to do tonight, but you're going to leave out of here with a memory that you will never, ever forget." So, Rick, I want to thank you, man, for taking time out of your schedule this evening and joining with us as we celebrate the life and the memory of an incredible musician. As I told Kirk Farquhar earlier, and you know how stubborn I am, I'm not going to let Bubba's life just dissipate like that without a proper and fitting musical tribute to the brother at some point in the near future. And I hope I'm able to get enough resources to have you bring that pretty sound in here with us, man.
Absolutely. It's our pleasure. And Slim and you guys be safe.
Okay, brother. Be blessed, man.
Man,
good to you, Rick.
Do what he do,
Daddy. Bobby.
All right. Thank you so much. As we begin to wrap up the show, Slim, you've been very patient, you and Dee, as I've had to just kind of round this show together. Any thoughts on what you would like to say as it relates to the great Bubba Bryant?
Well, if you knew Bubba, you knew greatness. And I'm not talking about somebody that just could. You knew Bubba, you knew greatness. For all intent and purposes, he was something special that came into our lives and made us appreciate ourselves. That was Bubba Bryant. He was a bad man.
You made me think of something I want to share with the audience before we wrap it up tonight. At that same rehearsal for Ronnie's CD release party, there was a singer and another vocalist, Philip Ingram, James Ingram's brother, and they were doing Roberta Flack's "Where the Love," right? And it got to be annoying to Bubba because I'm glad I can't remember this girl's name. She was forgettable. And she kept trying to tell Bubba where the pocket was, right? Yeah, you know, Bubba never did show a whole lot of emotion, man. But since I knew Bubba the way I do, I knew that it was getting on his nerve because it was hurting my ear, and I was getting ready to go unplug the woman's microphone, you know.
Wow.
And then she said, "That ain't the tempo. That ain't the tempo." And Bubba said, "Excuse me, ma'am. I worked with Roberta Flack for a couple of years, and that's the tempo." "No, it ain't. No, it ain't." He said, "Well, I'll tell you what. Let me turn this metronome on, and let's see what happens." Okay, turn that metronome on, and then he played with the metronome. You couldn't tell the difference.
Okay.
You see, and she had to humble herself, you know, and that's the kind of cat he was about the music.
He didn't play.
If it wasn't right, he was gonna make it right, man. Oh my God. So D, your final thoughts, and then I want you to put a spiritual tone on it at the end of this, man.
Bubba Bryant, man, see, I heard you cuss earlier, but I ain't gonna do it. But that was my guy, you know. It's my guy. He was, you know, picture perfect drummer, man. You know, this kind of, if any front man or entertainer, you know, I ain't the one to stand on there, 'cause I like to use the stage, you know, and that vibe has to be brought to me, you know, and then you have to hold it. You got to keep it, you know. And Bubba could do that, man. Bubba, without even, I mean, he understood music, you know, and he was a dedicated musician. He's one of very few, and I know some, that, as you said earlier, every day, even in these last days, you know, me and Slim was with him. He's being sick. Man, look, Bubba played the pad, brother. You know, and that kind of dedication, man, is a whole nother passion. If we all had that, the culture of music that we do would be bigger, it would be more profound than that type of thing. I think we should take the essence on how Bubba practiced and live with our music like that, you know, and embrace it. Embrace it, you know. It ain't a lot of times it ain't all about the money. You know, but if you ain't paying attention, you don't see that, you know, you won't understand that. But that's what Bubba Bryant had. He had an attention on music that it wasn't all about the money, you know. And as well as he played, if you heard him play, you was going to pay him. You got to pay him, you know. But he was an awesome brother. He was my friend. He was my brother. You know, he was my drummer, you know. And we're going to miss him. He's going to be missed.
So if you would honor us with a fitting selection, man.
The one that you said, son?
Yes, sir. Yeah, man.
We'll do a verse or something, man.
Yeah, come on, man.
I've had some good days. I've had some hills to climb. I've had some weary days and some lonely nights. But when I look around and I think things over, all of my good days outweigh my bad days. Now I won't complain. Rest in peace, Bob.
Man. Yeah. So D, where can they get a sample of? And no, not a sample, a big taste of what you do musically.
D. Bradley's music.
Yeah.
You can hit me up on D. Bradley at D. Bradley Candyman at yahoo.com. You know, you can hit me up on Facebook, D. Bradley Candyman. We out there on cdbaby.com, you know, Amazon, you know, Music Cloud. We're there, but just Google D. Bradley Candyman. You can get me.
Well, I remember one night, and because D was uncomfortable doing his recorded music, unless he was with musicians you was comfortable with. And I insisted.
Well, that ain't being uncomfortable. I had sense enough not to try to do. He had sense enough not to try to do his original.
Oh boy!
Yeah.
And one night since I was paying him, we was over at the townhouse, right? I said, man, I don't give a damn. Bubba's up in here, man. You gonna do Stranger tonight, man? And
We did.
if you have not heard this brother sing, I was with him when he was putting this song together, and he still owes me one more cut before we get to the other side, and that's Baby Don't Panic. I'm patching up these holes in the Titanic.
We got it coming. It's coming. We almost finished.
Oh my God! So as we wrap this up, I know how Kirk felt when he got choked up, man, because it's impossible not to feel a certain kind of way about somebody that has warmed so many hearts around the world, with his ability to get with other musicians and elevate their performance, and then be able to just create a space all of his own, you know what I mean? And he did it in such a regal way that he's an unforgettable human being, and I'm going to miss him, but I'm not going to miss him because he's going to continue to live in my spirit and in my soul. And Bubba, I tell you, man, what memories we shared over these years. It's over 50 years I've known the brother, man, and that was quite an experience, man.
That was awesome.
To see this guy in different settings, with Benson and Bobby Womack and all these great artists that I grew up
and
loving.
D. Bradley.
Yeah, and D. Bradley.
Man, I love it. We got some footage that you can probably pull up with Bubba playing with me on the Black Expo.
Right, the D. Bradley Black Expo, man. And I'm telling you, boy, they tore the roof off of that place, man. That was a very, very special night. So Bubba's funeral service is going to be Thursday in Nashville, I understand. And I won't be able to attend that, but I tell you what, we're going to put together something really, really reflective of the impact that this brother had on music around the world. So once again, I want you to know that I appreciate you, Slim, for what you did in the waning years of Bubba's life, and the support that you gave him, man. It means a lot to me to know.
Thank you for introducing me.
We all shared that spirit with that brother and that love, man. And as we close out tonight, I just want y'all to know I thank you for letting me be myself.
I don't know how we can stop that. If somebody can Twitter that in, if you know it well enough, we want you to continue to do yourself. Thank you, Uncle Bobby.